Kanche and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Jonesa. Today we take a look back on stories from Quebec over the last year. For decades, the community of Manawan has lived with a piece of hidden history known as the ghost babies. At least 25 children died or went missing after being sent to hospitals. Lindsay Richardson has more.
This is the kind of home Delima Flamand's known most of her life, full of light, life, and laughter from her daughters. Today, Delima's in her 90s, and life in Manawan's long-term care home is quieter. But her daughter Annette comes often to visit, binder of paperwork in hand, hoping to one day bring news of a long-lost child Delima never got to know. She tells APTN the story she's told so many times over about how she gave birth to a daughter, Violetta, while in a tuberculosis sanatorium outside of Manawan. How her healthy baby died suddenly and was buried before she could see the body.
Si Violetta est vraiment décédée, c'est de savoir où elle a été inhumée. Puis la grosse décision qu'on va devoir prendre aussi, c'est advenant qu'elle est vraiment décédée, qu'est-ce qu'on fait du corps? Est-ce qu'on demande qu'elle soit rapatriée ici pour qu'elle puisse être enterrée auprès des autres membres de la famille?
You'd think this would be easy information to find, but the paper trail is misleading. While her medical file says she died at 4 weeks old, the parish record says she died after 740 days.
Ce qu'on cherche, c'est la vérité. Puis je pense qu'à partir de là, il y a un processus de guérison qui va s'enclencher.
Delima took her story to the MMIWG inquiry, which concluded that this story and a handful of others are not isolated cases. They're known as ghost babies. They come from over 100 Innu and Atikamekw children who disappeared after being hospitalized outside their communities between the 50s and the 70s.
À la Manawan, on a dénombré 25 enfants. Okay. Et il y a 18 familles jusqu'à maintenant, là.
Pierre-Paul Nikwe works for Awashak, a community association named after the Atikamekw word for baby. For a few years now, they've tried to provide comfort to families of the missing, but now they press institutions like hospitals, cemeteries, and churches to turn over records, and quickly.
Il faut pas qu'ils ressentent de la honte ni de la culpabilité. C'est pas eux qui sont responsables de cette situation-là. Toutefois, s'ils restent dans l'inaction, ils pourront porter le poids de la culpabilité et de la honte.
For years, the government did nothing to respond. But in 2021, Quebec adopted Bill 79. It's an access to information bill known as the Babies Law, appointing a special advisor to assist families in their research and put legal pressure on institutions refusing to cooperate. Good news for those who need it, like Viviane Echequan Nikwe, who has 3 different death dates for her little sister, Lauriana.
Il y a eu 27 octobre. Puis au presbytère, c'est le 28 octobre. Puis l'autopsie, c'est le 30 octobre.
Then there was the funeral itself.
Quand il est arrivé là-bas, mon père, ma mère disait au salon de funérailles, quand on est arrivé, le cercueil était grand, on dit, alors que ma soeur, il avait juste 2 mois et demi. Puis le bébé qui était là, on dirait qu'il avait 10 mois, 11 mois.
Indian Affairs Canada still has an active status card number on file for Lauriana, begging the question, could she be alive?
C'est dur de vivre ça, là. Même quand je m'en vais en ville, quand je vois des personnes qui ressemblent à un autochtone, je regarde puis je me dis, c'est peut-être ma sœur.
Families have had to find ways to commemorate their loss in the meantime.
On sait qu'il était déjà à l'article le 28 juillet.
This empty Tikanagan was built to honor Manon Ottawa's uncle, known as Baby Maxime, who died after being treated in hospital for a skin condition.
Tant qu'on n'aura pas de réponse sur la disparition de bébé Maxime, on ne mettra pas de tissu. Il y a eu Marie-Madeleine, un bébé mort-né. Joseph Paul.
Angèle Petitcoué already knew her mother had lost several children in her lifetime and decided to do something to remember them.
On s'est assis, c'était justement avant le dépôt du rapport de l'FNDA. On confectionnait des petites robes rouges. Et puis, c'est là que je lui ai parlé de mon projet.
This is how she found out about her identical twin brothers, Jean-Pierre and Jean-Guy, who disappeared as babies. After hearing others testify at the MMIWG inquiry, she made a report to police and started doing research, but hasn't yet asked the government for help.
On ne sait pas si on va trouver justice. C'est quand même beaucoup d'injustice.
So what could have happened? According to the MMIWG summary report, some witnesses are convinced the babies were kidnapped to be used in medical experiments or sold to non-Indigenous families. Another theory, an epidemic or an outbreak of notifiable disease authorities refuse to control as a form of genocide. The report recommended a public apology from the institutions involved. But is the Quebec government considering reparations? Indigenous Affairs says...
Honnêtement, non. Quand on est venu me rencontrer, quand les aînés sont venus me voir, ils m'ont dit, exemple, ma mère est rendue à un âge X, elle va décéder sans avoir la réponse. L'urgence, c'est ça. Alors, on ne dit pas qu'il n'y aura pas d'autres étapes par la suite, mais là, la priorité, c'est de trouver l'information.
It's said that here, in Manawan, mothers used to wait on the riverbanks, watching planes fly overhead, hoping for news of their missing children. And just ahead of the anniversary of the baby's law, so many still maintain hope that answers are somewhere on the horizon.
On est quand même résilient. On n'est pas abattu par ça, mais on veut connaître la vérité.
Quebec's baby's law status report will be released in Manawan in the presence of these families at the end of April. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Manawan, Quebec.
In September, the Mohawk mothers were back in court after construction resumed on the old Royal Victoria Hospital site in Montreal. Quebec's Infrastructure Society and McGill University say the search for unmarked graves in that area is done, but the mothers disagree. Amelia Fournier reports.
Excavation started up again at McGill University September 11th for the new Vic project, a renovation of the old Royal Victoria Hospital led by McGill and Quebec's Infrastructure Society, or SQI.
This is how non-transparent this investigation is.
But the Mohawk mothers, or Ganistansera, say that it's too early for this.
It's like they're trying to rush through it. So every time we're doing one investigation on one place, they're trying to hurry to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And so therefore, there was very, very little time, maybe a day or two, before we knew that more drilling was going on.
A dress, fragments of a shoe, and animal bones were found close to where cadaver dogs detected traces of human remains near the Hersey Pavilion. GPR scans also showed several anomalies on the grounds. They have yet to manually search the area directly against the building where sniffer dogs detected remains or through the piles of dirt that were unearthed. In August, McGill and the SQI terminated the mandate of the archaeologist panel that the Ganistansera selected, leaving the two institutions in charge of the investigation.
What they're putting out to their students and what they're putting out in the press is they're minimalizing it, and they're making it like, no, we conducted. They didn't say whether they finished or whether they passed on the information, but it's like they are trying to rush to get through a next stage. And I don't know why.
The Ganistansera were in Quebec Superior Court with McGill and SQI September 14th to address what they see as a non-respect of their settlement agreement, concluded this past spring to guide the searches on the new Vic site.
This is meant to be a respectful investigation, and it is being blown out of proportion in the means that they are taking every chance available to take gray areas that have not been fine pointed and manipulating them in a way to their advantage.
McGill sent an email to their students indicating, quote, "This stage of work has not produced any evidence of human remains or unmarked graves." In an email to APTN, McGill indicated that the archaeology company working on the site, Ethnoscope, said the dress, dating from the 1990s, and the shoe fragments dating from the first part of the 20th century, are not significant evidence of unmarked graves. Until the judge delivers his ruling, construction will continue, and so will the Mohawk mothers search for answers. Amelia Fournier, APTN National News, Montreal.
Officials are juggling responsibility over an access road leading to a Atikamekw community of Manawan in Quebec, where dozens of people have been killed in car accidents. The feds say it's the province's responsibility. The province says it's on the Forest Ministry, and the Forestry isn't saying anything. Here's the story by Lindsay Richardson and Shashawn Bacon.
This road is the only way in and the only way out for the Atikamekw community of Manawan, 87 kilometers from the nearest municipality, St. Michel des Saints. While it's technically called Manawan Road, those who use it know there are dangers far out of their control.
C'est pas sécuritaire cette route-là, avec les courbes, avec les pentes, surtout quand il pleut puis qu'il y a le verglas, c'est dangereux.
Au niveau de la sécurité des membres de Manawan qui prennent cette route-là, les camions surchargés, c'est inquiétant.
By night, enveloped in darkness. By day, obstructed by dust clouds. Even traveling at low speeds, it's easy to lose control. It's killed several dozen community members. Directly, like in the incident of 1977, a car accident that killed 5 Manawan members. Or indirectly, like in early 2022, when 7-month-old Netea Chilton died.
Non, parce que vraiment mon bébé fait convulsion, puis c'est vraiment urgent. Mais j'ai dit, si vous ne voulez pas m'envoyer en ambulance, essayez de faire de quoi que je ramène mon bébé par moi-même.
This is the first time the Chiltons have spoken to media about their daughter's death. A year's passed, but the pain is still fresh. It took nearly 9 hours to transport Netea to a children's hospital in Montreal. A coroner's investigation concluded her death was accidental, a case of bacterial meningitis complicated by emergency care received too late.
Il y a un lien à faire entre le bébé qui est décédé au printemps 2022, mais aussi la situation de la route. Parce qu'au printemps 2022, la route était chaotique, il y avait plein de troupes et l'ambulance ne pouvait pas circuler assez convenablement pour pouvoir évacuer.
You'd think maintaining or repairing the road would be simple enough, but ministries and departments are juggling responsibility. Indigenous Services Canada says they provide operations and maintenance funding for the last 6 kilometers leading to Manawan. They say everything else is the responsibility of Transport Quebec, who in turn told APTN News they're only responsible for minimizing risk by plowing the road in winter or hosing it down during the summer.
C'est un chemin dont le ministère des Ressources naturelles et des Forêts est le propriétaire. Sauf que effectivement, là, c'est le chemin Manawan. Le ministère des Transports et de la Mobilité durable en a l'entretien et on s'en occupe.
So we sent several emails to Quebec's Forestry Ministry, all of which went unanswered. The thing is, this is technically a logging road, which means trucks can travel with unrestricted heavy loads, usually over the speed limit. Jean-Roch Ottawa, former band council chief, says the community's been in discussions with Quebec about reclassifying the road for years, but feels the province's industry often outweighs Manawan's safety.
Pour limiter la charge des camions, parce qu'ils sont surchargés, le ministère il veut pas trop déclasser la classification du chemin, parce que l'industrie fait de la pression. Il dit si vous déclassez le chemin, mon industrie va mourir.
There's a meeting with the Transport Ministry upcoming in April, and though the community has raised the alarm for more than 50 years, Chief Sibi Flamand knows there are likely more to go.
C'est quand même plusieurs années, là, si je comprends bien la juridiction québécoise, mais aussi la juridiction sur la foresterie.
Meanwhile, grieving families like the Chiltons are left to deal with the emotional wreckage of losing a loved one.
Les médecins de Montréal, il y avait raison de l'amener en hélicoptère. Il y avait peut-être plus de chances qu'il nous disait de survivre.
As urgent as it may seem, there's still a long, winding road ahead until a safer trip. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Manawan, Quebec.
We need to step aside for a moment, but when we return, more stories from Quebec. A Mi'kmaq couple from eastern Quebec competed in the Amazing Race Canada this past spring. Amelia Fournier met up with them to talk about their experience.
Amanda LaRocque and Devin Kondo Mitchell are used to pushing themselves to their limits. But it was a whole other level competing on the Amazing Race.
If you want to test your relationship and you want to see if you're going to make it, I mean, join the Amazing Race because it's going to test you at every level imaginable.
Devin and Amanda live in Guescabegia, where Devin works as a conservation officer and Amanda works as the head of public health of the community.
They're turning around.
Why?
They were able to put themselves to the test in a race across the country, which Devin said helped him grow.
Get out of your comfort zone. It only makes you stronger, and that's the only way you're going to grow in life, is whenever you're uncomfortable.
When she's not working or spending time with Devin and her 2 kids, Amanda is a traditional powwow dancer.
We had a couple dance challenges so far, tree dancing and swing dancing. I think that helped a lot, knowing some of the basics, I would say, but that helped me. My dance helped me, actually.
They were able to use their adventurous spirit and traditional teachings to make it through the race.
We come from a nation of resilience. You know, we've survived colonization. You know, we're still thriving today. We still have the language. You know, I can speak my language that's been under colonization for over 500 years.
Devin and Amanda say their experience on the show made them stronger as a couple.
We just persevered and became stronger as we went, because we started to work on our communication skills and we knew how to talk to each other, and the weaknesses started to show, and we picked on that. And we just, after every leg, we would just conversate on like, how can we better ourselves throughout this race and get stronger together.
Devin, who is originally from the neighboring community of Listugush, says that he felt proud to be part of the first Mi'kmaq team to compete in the race.
It's a huge responsibility, because we're representing a whole nation of Mi'kmaq people, and we don't want to do our people wrong and stuff like that, and we just tried the best that we could.
Amanda and Devin have received overwhelming support from their communities and some light teasing.
The only thing I'm getting is like, I hope you have an amazing evening, or I hope you have an amazing way home. So they'll throw roadblock jokes and detour jokes.
She noticed that we were First Nations, and she said she was honored for us to be running the race.
Amanda and Devin said they felt supported by First Nations across the country.
The love and support that we're getting from Turtle Island right now is absolutely unbelievable, and we're super grateful for that.
It's a delicate balance as teams hang on for a spot in the semifinals.
You can catch Amanda and Devin competing on the Amazing Race on CTV Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Amelia Fournier, APTN National News, Guescabegia, Quebec.
Thanks for that, Amelia. We have to take one last break, but stick around. We'll see you when we return. Welcome back. Ganawage burlesque artist Lulu La Duchesse d'Arrière was voted the 2nd most influential burlesque performer in the world. She's been a staple of the Montreal burlesque scene for over a decade and is now a mentor to up-and-coming performers of color. Amelia Fournier has more.
Burlesque is often called the art of slowly taking your clothes off, but it's much more than that, says Ganawage burlesque dancer Lulu La Duchesse de Rière.
It can be really easy to say, like, well, this is very demeaning, or it's sexualizing yourself, or I think burlesque is very empowering. It's always been a really awesome means of expression for myself and for other people. And yeah, I think it's the complete opposite.
She is the stripping sensation from the Mohawk Nation.
Lulu, or Lauren Giles, was voted the second most influential burlesque figure of 2022 in the world in 21st Century Burlesque magazine.
To be voted by my community members as an influential figure is also very, very surreal and really cool. So I feel like I don't know, it's a very fruitful, amazing year, like a reaffirming year as an artist, and it just made me feel like I've been doing the right thing and that I've been on this right track.
In June 2022, she competed in the world's biggest burlesque competition, the Burlesque Hall of Fame Weekender in Las Vegas. Her piece won, despite it being unconventional.
It is really a piece that is centered around this idea of like decolonizing sexuality and like reclaiming my body as like an Indigenous woman. A lot of the dance is like very violent, or has like violent kind of imagery. It's very like sexual, it's like really political, and I was really surprised when they're like, we want this to compete. You do not want to have to repair any of the beadwork on it. It took hundreds of hours. And when I won, I was just like, I can't believe that like it's the whole world like recognizing this piece as like the best in the week. And I was like, it meant a lot to me. And then to have conversations that week with other Indigenous performers that were there during the week and to see how much that piece resonated with them adds a whole nother level to it.
Last year's Burlesque Hall of Fame Weekender featured a land acknowledgement for the first time, something Giles helped work on. She and the other Indigenous artists added a call out for donations for different community organizations.
It's not just about saying like, this is the territory that we're on. It's about like maybe reaching out to institutions or organizations that are in our territories and seeing how we can make like legitimate connections with the Indigenous people that still occupy the land and give back.
Burlesque has come a long way from its racially insensitive past, says Giles.
Resurgence of burlesque in the like late 90s, early 2000s, it was definitely like chasing that 1950s, 1960s retro aesthetic, and unfortunately you'd have things like tiki shows and geisha acts and like Pocahontas princess type acts.
Giles will be producing the 2023 edition of the Burlesque Hall of Fame Weekender competition and won't be competing anymore, to focus on mentoring and producing.
Kind of like entering my NT stage in the community, and it was just fun because I'm so young. You know, I'm too young, much too young to be a mother.
But she won't stop performing anytime soon. Emilia Fournier, APTN National News, Montreal.
That's all the time we have for this special edition of APTN National News, looking back at some of this year's stories from Quebec. If you want to catch up on anything you may have missed throughout the year, you can do so at aptnnews.ca. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.